Saregama Karwa 2.0.
Diddly squat. If you don't know what diddly squat means, you don't know diddly squat. Diddly squat literally means nothing. The term is used with a negative context to denote something that is minimal and inconsequential. The word is a direct linguistic cousin to doodly squat. That's quite interesting. Diphthong. If you Google the word diphthong, you'd be surprised to see how many times it's been given the title of the word of the year. So a diphthong, if you didn't know, also known as a gliding vowel, is a combination of two adjacent vowel sounds within the same syllable, just like in the words coin and loud. Its meaning isn't that cool, but it's still pretty fun to say diphthong. Doohickey. Now this one might hit home for people who aren't that tech savvy. So a doohickey is a generic term used for any gadget when you can't remember its name. Say for example, you've lost your remote for the Carvaan and the volume is all the way up. So you say, "Honey, have you seen the Carvaan doohickey?" Yeah, you get what I mean. Fartlek. This one's probably only going to be amusing to those of us who are still juvenile enough to laugh at jokes about flatulence. The word fartlek stands for a training technique associated with runners. It is Swedish in origin and from the early 1950s. Let's face it, the only reason it's funny is because it has the word fart in it, right? Flummox. Flummox. Sounds like a word you would try to say when you're trying to imitate a British accent, right? Well, flummox as a verb means to bewilder, confound or confuse. It likely comes from the Old English word flummock, meaning to make untidy or confuse. Charles Dickens is the first writer known to have used it in his 1837 Pickwick Papers. And my opinion is, Sammy, that if your governor don't prove her alibi, he'll be what the Italians call regularly flummoxed, and that's all about it. Ooh, sounds nice and complicated. Gaberlunzie. Did you know that in Scotland, during the 1700s, you had to have a license to beg? Gaberlunzie is a medieval Scots word for a licensed beggar. The name may derive from the wallet that such people carried, but there is no other known derivation. Crazy. Gardyloo. Although this word is obsolete now, Gardyloo was shouted by servants in medieval Scotland to warn passers-by of waste about to be thrown from a window onto the street below. This phrase was still in use as late as the 1930s and 40s when people had no indoor toilets. So if you ever hear the term Gardyloo, make sure you make a run for it. Gastromancy. Did you ever think that it was possible to tell your future, talk to the dead, or even talk to God purely from the sounds coming from the rumbling of your stomach? Yes, you heard right. I didn't think so either. Gastromancy is a method of divination by use of stomach sounds to represent the voice of the dead. I tried this once, but it just turned out to be butterflies in my stomach and not dead people. Thank God. Gobbledygook. A slight inclination of the cranium is as adequate as a spasmodic movement of one optic tone equine quadruped, utterly devoid of any visionary capacity. Ha! Bet you don't know what that means. That, my friends, is a fine example of what gobbledygook is. It's a language that is meaningless or is made unintelligible by excessive use of technical terms. Luckily, I'm fluent in gobbledygook and can translate that for you. If you take all the jargon away, that complicated mess of a sentence simply meant a nod is as good as a wink to a blind horse. God-watery. Now, this particular word has an array of meanings to choose from. It could mean an affectedly archaic or elaborate speech writing, or an affected or over-elaborate style of gardening or attitude towards gardens, or nonsense. You can take your pick as to how you'd like to employ this word depending on your current state of affairs, of course. Personally, I would use this word when I'm bored and indulging in some nonsense, since it sounds pretty nonsensical. Don't you think? Gongoozle. Not sure why anyone would indulge in such an activity, so much so that there is a need to have a word for it. Gongoozle literally means a person who enjoys watching the activity on the canals of the United Kingdom. They legitimately just stare at the canals and harbour a keen interest in canal life since they can't participate in it. Strange. Gonzo. Gonzo is a style of journalism apparent by the absence of objectivity due to the writer's engagement in the subject matter and often participation in the activity being documented. Who would have known such a word existed with such an elaborate meaning to it? Sure, but it is good to have a word for such a familiar concept though, isn't it? Hemi-demi-semi-quaver. Hemi-demi-semi-quaver, hemi-demi-semi-quaver, hemi-demi-semi-quaver. Oh my God! How fast can you say hemi-demi-semi-quaver? Bet you can't say it as fast as a musician can play it. Now this is the 64th note in music, and it is said to be the fastest musical note. If mastered, it can stretch human technique to its limits. Hocus Pocus. Heard of the movie Hocus Pocus? Well, the movie literally spells out the meaning of the phrase with visual aids. Magicians use it. Witches use it. This phrase means a deceitful sleight of hand. It's usually enunciated when someone's performing tricks or casting a spell. Ooh, abracadabra, hocus pocus, hoo! Hoosegow. This is an American slang word that is still quite prominent and means a jail or prison. Bet you didn't see that one coming, right? Now, doesn't it sound quite paradoxical to how the word sounds and what it actually means? Hootenanny. Well, a hootenanny sure is a hoot. Prominent in the western part of the world, hootenanny is a social gathering or informal concert featuring folk singing and sometimes dancing. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Hey, no, it's a hootenanny. Jackalope. The word jackalope is a totally fictional portmanteau. But it still is fun regardless. As anyone who's travelled the wild American West will tell you that a jackalope is a jackrabbit with antelope horns. While Wikipedia mostly cites North America as a source, it sort of has an Australian vibe. Jackanapes. In the archaic times, this word was used as a nickname for a tame ape, which is still quite fitting as it's used to describe a cheeky and mischievous person. I'm sure you remember Jerry from Tom and Jerry? Well, Jerry's definitely jackanapes. Klutz. Remember Mr. Bean? How would you best describe him? Clumsy? Awkward? Well, if you didn't guess it already, that is the definition of the word klutz. Honestly, the word suits Mr. Bean the best and what makes him one of the most hilarious TV characters, doesn't it? La-di-da. Divas are so la-di-da with their fancy requests and their demands. This almost completely senseless array of letters together defines someone's pretentious or snobbish manner of speech. That's why divas are best associated with the phrase, "Ooh, that's la-di-da." Lagopodus. Who would have ever thought there is a word that is used to describe rabbit-like feet thickly covered with fur or feathers? Well, believe it, there is one, and it's Lagopodus. Not sure where one might end up using this one though. But hey, you'll know when you know. Lickety-split. During recess, all the students rush to the cafeteria lickety-split. Well, I'm sure you figured out that the meaning of this phrase is as fast as possible. I feel like whenever it comes to food, no matter what time of the day it is, we all tend to wipe off our plates clean. Lickety-split. Lickspittle. Lickspittle is a servile person or a toady or a person who behaves obsequiously to those in power. Someone who will do just about anything to please their boss, will stoop to any level of fawning and groveling to get ahead in their career, even if that means to lick a greasy lump of spit as per their boss's orders. Gross. Lagoria. Something that our teachers have to deal with when they have to grade our semester exam papers that prominently suffer from Lagoria, just so that the pages get filled up. Ha! Well, in case you're wondering, it's not actually a disorder, but sure sounds like one, cause it literally means the diarrhea of the mouth, often used to describe someone who is extremely talkative. Maverick. Now, in today's day and age, if you're looking for funding your startup business, one of the key essentials or requirements is to be a maverick. When I say that, I mean someone who thinks outside the box. Maybe unorthodox too. By the way, it's a good quality to have if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. Be a maverick. Mollycoddle. You remember Hrithik Roshan's character as a younger boy in the movie Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum? And how he was treated in an indulgent and overprotective way and pampered? Well, that's what mollycoddle means. I'm sure you won't forget what it means now. Mugwump. As nonsensical as this word sounds, it actually has a pretty cool meaning. A mugwump is a person who is unable to make up his or her mind on an issue, especially in politics, or a person who is neutral on a controversial issue. So the next time someone's standing in front of you at McDonald's and can't decide if they want a Coke or a Sprite, you can tell that mugwump to move along. Mumsimus. Did anyone say mums? Ha! Well, no. Actually, the word here is mumsimus, which means an outdated and unreasonable position on an issue. That's really mumsimus. Hey, I like the sound of that. Namby-pamby. He's such a namby-pamby. This not-so-common phrase is commonly used to describe someone who is weak with no backbone. Not particularly a very positive phrase to use, since it can also synonymously be used for the word sissy. Nincompoop. One of the more commonly used terms is nincompoop. And no, if you don't already know it, it has nothing to do with poop. Although, if you look at it another way, someone who is a nincompoop lacks common sense and is foolish and probably has a lot of shit in his head. So maybe it does make sense after all. Ordinary. Ordinary is a word that's used to describe someone who is likely to get angry or argue with people. The adjective ordinary sprung up in the early 19th century when people started pronouncing ordinary with an accent. The root of ordinary is Latin for order, and if you disrupt the orderly existence of an ordinary person, prepare to get yelled at. Pandiculation. Remember history class at school? Or perhaps any of your professors who would teach you a subject in a monotone and they would go on and on and on. Well, I think you get what I'm trying to indicate in regards to this word's meaning. Well, to be precise, it means to stretch your body and yawn simultaneously. Having learnt the meaning, you can't even deny that you have never pandiculated in class now. Can you? Panjandrum. Just a funnier way to describe someone who thinks himself high and mighty. It's a synonym for a snob, really. With its Greek-Latin roots, this word is yet just a nonsense word that was actually coined by Samuel Foote, a British playwright and actor, to test the memory of one of his fellow actors who claimed that he could repeat anything after hearing it just once. He really was a panjandrum. Pettifogger. This literally describes someone who tries to confuse or befuddle others with their speech. I can think of one major profession that uses this particular tactic more often than most. Guess? That's right, lawyers! Now, most of you who have seen shows like How to Get Away with Murder or Suits knows exactly what I'm talking about here, right? Pratfall. Well, this one's definitely got something to do with falling, but more specifically implies falling on one's butt. Yes, that's right, you heard me. This unconventional talk about the backside in the 16th century, when bad posture was a major hush-hush topic. Queen. No, I'm certainly not talking about Queen. Here I'm talking about Quean, Queen with an A. The latter's meaning is far from what the former stands for. A queen is an insult towards a disreputable or a scandalous woman. Rambunctious. Well, I'm sure you've heard of the words boisterous or rowdy, right? Well, rambunctious means just the same. Someone who's loud and aggressive. So you could call someone out on their rowdy behavior without them even realizing it or getting into trouble for it by using this lesser known word. Sneaky, right? Ranivorous. Now, if you're looking to impress someone with some scientific terms, we got your back. The word ranivorous stands for a creature that eats frogs. I'm sure biology majors are familiar with this term, but if they aren't, you can be sure to educate them about this little bit of scientific trivia. Quite cool. Rigmarole. Babies are known for this. And by this I meant to say that the word rigmarole means confused or meaningless talk. I think now you get what I meant by babies are known for this. Although, I think our parents think that we still talk like this, considering all the acronyms we use in our daily language. LOL, GTG, etc. What is all this? Shenanigan. Now, everybody is guilty of indulging in shenanigans at some point in their lives, whether it was a prank call or ding-dong ditch in a hotel. This infamous word shenanigan stands for playing a prank or getting up to some mischief. I remember quite a few shenanigans when I was young. Shivu. A shivu is an Australian slang word which means a boisterous party or celebration. This is a word that makes me think of a wild party in an Australian college student's dorm with kangaroos, koalas and boomerangs. Ooh, that shivu ought to be fun, mate. Sialoquent. Well, this word means to spit while speaking, a concept that every Indian is quite familiar with. Now, if you happen to see Shah Rukh Khan's movie Main Hoon Na, one of his professors in the movie has seriously mastered the art of sialoquenting. Skedaddle. A more commonly heard and used word here is skedaddle. It means to run away or scram quickly from somewhere. I don't know about you, but I seem to indulge in this activity pretty often when I don't do my chores and my mum gets back home. I just skedaddle. Skullduggery. All no-good underhanded dealings are more often than not considered to be the work of the devil or some evil. And so, it's pretty fitting for skullduggery to hold such a meaning. Slangwanger. Well, the beginning of the word suggests that it is a slang word, so we definitely won't forget it. This is someone who is an abusive or obnoxious writer and who profusely swears. A slangwanger has quite a nasty tongue, I might add. Smell fungus. It's understandable why people avoid a smell fungus. However, it's not because of their scent. A smell fungus is a person who complains and bickers to everyone about meaningless matters. Smell fungus is based on Tobias Smollett, who complained about almost everything in his 1766 travel book, Travels Through France and Italy. Snollygoster. Although it's not generally used in contemporary culture, a snollygoster is a clever, unscrupulous person. The word dates back to the late 1840s and was used in the South to refer derogatorily to a politician. It likely comes from Snallygaster, a mythical creature from rural Maryland that's half reptile and half bird and preys on children and poultry. And fittingly, J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them includes an entry for it. I'm not really sure I like a snollygoster. Snool. This word may sound like it means something really funny and light-hearted, but it's far from it. It stands for a servile person, which basically means someone who is reduced to submission or slavery. Talk about dark humor, huh? Tatterdemalion. This comical word is used for a person dressed in rags. Maybe this is probably where the phrase torn and tattered clothes originated from. But you have to admit saying tatterdemalion sounds way more amusing than boring old torn and tattered, right? Troglodyte. This word primarily means someone or something that lives in a cave. Well, that's a pretty broad meaning, because we all know that other than ogres, there are several other mysterious creatures that live in caves. And well, it's good to know that there's finally a term for them. Troglodyte. Turdiform. All you animal and bird watching enthusiasts, this one's for you. This Latin English word means having the form of a lark. What's a lark, you say? Well, typically they are small-sized songbirds that are native to Africa. Unremacadamized. This word sure is a mouthful, and well, the meaning being just as long is only befitting, having not been repaved with macadam. Macadam is actually the old school word for small broken stones. Not sure where one would actually end up using such a word. Hey, but if you were to ever go and watch an old English play, you could surprise yourself by knowing what it actually means. Vomitory. This 17th century Latin word means an exit or an outlet. Coincidence maybe? Maybe not. That's probably why when we are sick to our stomach and puking our guts out, it's called vomiting. Wabbit. Hey, this word sounds like it's just a cute pronunciation of the word rabbit by kids and adults who struggle to pronounce the letter R. Well, that's far from the meaning actually. This word means to be exhausted, tired, or worn out. Yahoo! Well, we're not talking about your everyday emailing company. This word, as comical as it sounds, has a bit of an unexpected meaning. That is, a rube or a country bumpkin. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Well, it originates from the infamous literary work Gulliver's Travels and is used in reference to the race of the lewd human characters of the novel. A bibliophobia. Now, it seems rather ironic that the term a bibliophobia appears to have been coined on the web. It would seem impossible for anyone with regular access to the internet to be an abibliophobe. Do you know what it means? Well, a bibliophobia means the fear of running out of things to read. Can you imagine that? Absquatulate. This originated in the mid-19th century and is a blend of abscond, squattle, squat down, and perambulate. Absquatulate means to leave abruptly. Hey, next time someone's rude to me, I'm going to absquatulate. Alligator. Hey, I know what you're thinking of, but it's not that. This alligator is spelled as Allegator. This is a really old word and not many people use it anymore. It's not to be confused with the animal the alligator, but this alligator is simply someone who alleges something. So, see you later, alligator! Anencephalous. Anencephalous is an insult that is bound to make you sound so much smarter than the person you're using it on. Anencephalous essentially means the congenital absence of a part or all of the brain. That's one way to call someone stupid. Argle-bargle. Hey, this word sounds really funny, and its meaning is copious but meaningless talk or writing. I like the sound of it. It sounds nice to say, hey, what argle-bargle is this? Batrachomiomachy. 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 Got it. Well, this funny, if rather long word is a Greek word meaning the battle of frogs and mice. It is the title of a mock-heroic epic poem about the struggle between frogs and mice by a small pond, described in the same terms as the siege of Troy is described in the Odyssey. That's quite cool, actually. I'm getting a whole visual of the frogs and the mice fighting. Nice. Billingsgate. This means foul or abusive language. Named after Billingsgate, a former fish market in London in England. I think I have a couple of ideas of why this came about. Do you? Bloviate. This means to discourse at length in a pompous or boastful manner. Mostly this is used for politicians. Can you hear blow in the word bloviate? That's a clue that someone bloviating is blowing some serious hot air. Blunderbuss. Blunderbuss means a blundering person. For example, leave it to the blunderbuss to bungle up a job that a child could do. Funny, isn't it? Blundering blunderbuss. Borborygym. You know that cry for help your tummy makes when you're starving? That's a borborygym. I definitely know what that is. It means a rumbling or gurgling noise produced by wind in the bowels. The origin of this word is ancient Greek. Boustrophodon. Now, the first known use of boustrophodon was in 1699. It means the writing of alternate lines in opposite directions, as in left to right and then from right to left. The word was borrowed from the Greek language. Boyang. Now this is an alteration of English dialect boy yanks, which means leather leggings. It means a cord or a strap tied around a worker's trousers just below the knee and is usually used in plural. Hey, that's quite interesting. Boyang. Brouhaha. The word first meant a noisy confusion of sound, a sense that was later extended to refer to any tumultuous and confused situation. Derived from French language, and now it means uproar. For example, there is a bit of a brouhaha over the etymology of brouhaha. Got it? Bumbershoot. Now this interesting word is a combination of umbrella and parachute. It means an umbrella. Most people think it's Americanism as they have heard American people using it, while referring to their umbrella, of course. But actually, it is a British word for umbrella. Callipygian. Callipygian comes from the Greek beauty plus buttocks. It's also the name of a famous statue of Venus and means having well-shaped buttocks. I think the Greeks exercised a lot to keep fit. Hence the result. Cantankerous. Now it's irritating, but we're not absolutely sure where cantankerous comes from. What we can say with conviction is that cantankerous has been used in English since at least the late 1700s. The word means difficult or irritating to deal with. Cater-cornered. Now this word is a less common variant of kitty corner, and it means in a diagonal or oblique position. It originated from the Old French word quatre, which means four. Next time, I'm going to say, "Oh look, see the table in the room? Ah, it's cater-cornered." Won't I sound cool? Cockalorum. It may have derived from the obsolete Flemish word cockaloron, meaning to crow. The association has left quite a mark on English language. The word means a boastful and self-important person. Hey, now next time you want to say somebody is being boastful or arrogant, you can just say, "He's such a cockalorum," and he won't know what you mean. What fun! Cockamamie. By the look and sound of it, cockamamie seems like an arbitrarily coined nonsense word. But hey, a reasonable explanation for its origin actually exists. In the 1940s, painted strips of paper with images capable of being transferred to the skin were called decals or cockamonies. They were naturally regarded by many as silly novelties. Hence, in time, the variant cockamamie came to be used as an adjective meaning ridiculous. Codswallop. Now this means nonsense, perhaps named after Hiram Cod, who invented a bottle for fizzy drinks in 1875. The derivation remains unconfirmed yet though. Collop. I'll have 3 collops of bacon with my toast, please. The word collop typically means any slice of meat. It originated as a Middle English word for an egg fried on bacon and later for the slice of bacon itself. The word also extended to refer to any slice of meat, as in collops of lobster, and even to a fold of flesh on the body. Comeuppance. One advantage of the silly words that Americans come up with is that their origins are not difficult to divine. This word was taken from the phrase to come up by adding the out-of-place French suffix ins to it. comeuppance is not so much harsh retribution as punishment that just fits the crime. Donnybrook. A Donnybrook is an occasion that is a bit of an uproar, a chaotic brawl, or a heated disagreement. The word Donnybrook is derived from a public fair that was held in Donnybrook, Ireland, beginning in the 1200s. By the 1800s, the Donnybrook Fair had a reputation of being a drunken, wild event that was finally ended in the mid-1800s. At that time, the simile, like Donnybrook Fair, entered the English language to mean a wild, uproarious brawl. Eventually, the term was shortened to simply Donnybrook. Doozy. The origin of this seems to have come from the 1836 publication of The Clockmaker, which described a perfect doll as a real daisy. In 1893, the Italian-based actor Eleonora Duse exemplified someone perfect, which may then have changed into doozy by the beginning of the 1900s. The phrase is used as a slang more than an idiom. Dudgeon. Now this is a feeling of offence, deep resentment or sullen anger. This came in around the 1570s from Duggan, which is of unknown origin, apparently from Anglo-Norman or Middle French, but the ultimate origin is still obscure. Eructation. Eructation is simply a fancier and some might argue a more decorous word for belch. Eructation was borrowed from Latin in the 15th century. The word eruct basically means to burp, belch or disgorge. So the next time you have a beer and you burp, you can say, "Oops, sorry for my eructation." Fard. Though a relatively uncommon little word, fard is used to describe a very familiar activity, the application of cosmetics. Yes, women will love this word. When it is encountered these days, it is often in participle form or simply as an example of an unusual or old-timey word. Fard was borrowed from Anglo-French and first appeared in English in the mid-1400s. It is ultimately of Germanic origin and akin to the Old High German faro, which means coloured. Filibuster. Using the filibuster to delay or block legislative action has a long history. The term filibuster, from a Dutch word meaning pirate, became popular in the 1850s when it was applied to efforts to hold the Senate floor in order to prevent a vote on a bill. The verb was used to describe tactics intended to sabotage US congressional proceedings, hence filibuster. Firkin. The origin of this word is from the Middle Dutch diminutive of vierde, which means fourth, literally fourth part. So called because it usually is the fourth part of a barrel. The word means a small wooden barrel or similar container with a unit capacity equaling to 1/4 of a barrel. Flibbertigibbet. Now this means a frivolous, flighty or excessively talkative person. It's a fine word to throw out in the appropriate circumstances, of course. Hey, she's such a flibbertigibbet. Folderol. English is rife with words that mean nonsense, and folderol is one of the many. Though not the most common of the words for nonsense, it's been around since 1820 and is still heard today. Folderol comes from fol-de-rol, which used to be a nonsense refrain in songs, much like tra-la-la. Formication. Now this is the sensation that resembles that of small insects crawling on or under the skin. Formication is etymologically derived from the Latin word formica, meaning ant, precisely because of this similarity in sensation to that of crawling insects. The term has been in use for several hundreds of years. Fuddy-duddy. Now, if any term sounds old in English, it must be this one. But strangely, fuddy-duddy appears to be of American origin, possibly via Scotland. Nor is it especially old. The first record that I can find of it is from the Texas newspaper, the Galveston Daily News, in 1889, which means a stuffy or foolishly old-fashioned person. Oh, fuddy-duddy. I like the sound of that. Furbelow. Now, this word probably originated in the late 17th century from French falbala, which means trimming or flounce. It is a term used for ruffle or flounce, as on a woman's skirt or petticoat, something that suggests a furbelow, especially in being showy or superfluous. Furphy. The word is said to derive from water carts designed and made by a company established by John Furphy. Many Furphy water carts were used to take water to Australian Army personnel during World War I in Australia, Europe and the Middle East. The tank was a popular place for soldiers to exchange gossip and rumours. Gazump. Now, this one has a few oddly specific definitions. The word gazump means to cheat a house buyer by raising an agreed-upon price at the time when a contract is about to be signed. That's not nice. Gazumping is more likely to occur in the UK, Ireland and Australia than in the US, where most states have laws that prohibit this practice. But in the US, a gazump is slang for a politician who takes bribes. However, we've also seen the word used to describe the sound that two hippos make when mating. That's funny. Gobmoosh. Admittedly, this funny little word is not a common, ordinary word that you hear around the house every day. It means a very gullible person who believes everything he or she hears, no matter how absurd. This word is a French compound based on gob, which means to swallow, and mouche, which is a fly. So literally, a fly swallower. The image here is someone whose jaw drops on hearing a fantastic story to the point that their mouth opens, allowing flies to enter. Goomba. They're called Goombas. However, the meaning of the word is actually a close friend or associate, prominently used among Italian-American men. Now, some might even use the word to talk about a member of a secret, chiefly Italian-American crime organization. Ooh. Hobbledehoy. Now, whenever guests were over, my mother used to always say to me, "Stop being such a hobbledehoy and come and entertain your guests." Now, I never knew what a hobbledehoy was, but I always listened to her. We should all listen to our mothers, right? Anyway, it was only a few years later that I found out that a hobbledehoy is someone who is awkward or gawky. It's a term typically used for teenagers. Kerfuffle. If you're a Harry Potter fan, this word will definitely sound familiar. In all the kerfuffle, nobody seemed to have noticed Harry, which suited him perfectly. J.K. Rowling. This absurd-sounding Scottish English word means a fuss or a commotion typically caused by a dispute or conflict. Lollygag. One could say, "Stop lollygagging and get back to work." The term lollygag means to goof around and waste time, merely a more nonsensical synonym for procrastination. I think I like lollygag better. Malarkey, an Irish-American slang word meaning bullshit or nonsense. What malarkey? Ha ha ha. I like the sound of it, don't you? Oocephalus. Well, the word oocephalus means an egghead. Someone who has an egg-shaped head, to be more precise. Sounds fancy, right? Well, the main reason that this word came into existence was cause the word egghead is such a prerogative term now. Snickersnee. Now this word has nothing to do with a chocolate bar. A snickersnee is the name for the long knife that a butcher uses to chop up meat. So the next time you come across a butcher, you can catch him off guard by saying snickersnee to describe his long knife. Won't that be fun? Widerschens. Well, now this word is of German descent and has been adopted in the English language with quite a bit of taboo attached to it. Originating in the 1500s, this word happens to mean to be in a left-handed, wrong, contrary or counterclockwise direction. It has been said that the demons continually approached the devil Widerschens, thereby implying that this path taken was vicious and doomed. Ooh! To be honest, I wouldn't walk Widerschens if I were you. Booty. According to a survey conducted in 2017 at the University of Warwick in the UK, the funniest word in the English language is, you've guessed it, booty! Booty can mean valuable stolen goods, especially those seized in war, or just something gained or won. Perhaps, though, the folks who participated in the survey were thinking of the idiom, shake your booty, in which case booty is slang for buttocks. Bumfuzzle. Now this word is native to the southern United States and is bound to bewilder a few people. Bumfuddle means to confuse or fluster. This word is less popular than some of its counterparts like befuddle or bewilder. But it's definitely way funnier. Canoodle. The word canoodle has got nothing to do with canned noodles or any kind of food for that matter. Canoodle as a verb means to caress, cuddle or pet amorously. The earliest known references are British. Britain still has a stranglehold on this one, as it is regularly spotted in British news. Catawampus. This one can be credited to the Scots. Catawampus is an adjective which means askew or awry, and as an adverb means diagonally. The library is catawampus from the cafeteria. Its meaning might be pretty dull, but it sure is fun to say. Catawampus. Catawampus. Nice. Collywobbles. If you're ever feeling anxious about something, or if you feel like you have butterflies in your stomach, you could just exclaim, collywobbles. Or you could use the word collywobbles as a noun to describe your upset stomach or the queasiness you feel. The word seems to have been created from cholera, the disease, and the word wobble meaning unsteady. Collywobbles first appeared in print in the 1823 edition of a classical dictionary of the vulgar tongue. But as far as we can tell, collywobbles isn't very vulgar anymore. It's just stomach-achingly hilarious. Ooh, I've got the collywobbles.
जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन। तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण। मेरे ख्वाबों की तस्वीर है तू, बेखबर मेरी तकदीर है तू। मेरे ख्वाबों की तस्वीर है तू, बेखबर मेरी तकदीर है तू। तू किसी और की हो न जाना, कुछ भी कर जाऊंगा मैं दीवाना। तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण। फासले और कम हो रहे हैं, दूर से पास हम हो रहे हैं। फासले और कम हो रहे हैं, दूर से पास हम हो रहे हैं। मांग लूंगा तुझे आसमां से, छीन लूंगा तुझे इस जहां से। तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण। जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन। तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण।
तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण।
जादू